It is a story whispered on the winter wind, a prophecy carved into the oldest stones. Not an end, but a transformation. In the lore of the Norsemen, the universe does not spin forever. It has a destiny, a final cataclysmic battle known as Ragnarök. This is the twilight of the gods, a time when the sun grows dim, the stars vanish, and the great wolf Fenrir is finally unleashed from his bonds. The world tree, Yggdrasil, will tremble, and the armies of gods and giants will march to their fated confrontation. It is a tale of betrayal, of heroes facing impossible odds, and of a world consumed by fire and flood. But from the ashes of the old, a new world is promised, a green and fertile land where a new generation of gods and humanity will rise. This is the story of the end and the ultimate beginning. Before the beginning and after the end, there is the story. In the Norse world, destiny is not a gentle stream, but a raging river, its course charted long before the gods first walked in Asgard. This fate is whispered in the rustling leaves of the world tree and thunders in the forge of the dwarves. At its heart lies a singular, terrifying prophecy known as the Völuspá, the prophecy of the seeress. It is the story of the end, a story the gods themselves know by heart, a shadow that chills even their immortal halls. The tale begins with Odin, the All-Father, chief of the Aesir gods. Driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, he summons the spirit of a Völva, a long-departed seeress, to reveal the secrets of the past and the shape of the future. What she tells him is not a tale of endless glory, but a detailed account of unavoidable decline and a final, cataclysmic battle. She speaks of the signs, the portents that will herald the twilight of the gods. The first sign will be a shift in the very climate of the cosmos, the Fimbulwinter. 3 winters will follow one another, with no summer in between. The sun will falter, the winds will howl, and the world will be encased in ice. This great winter is more than a physical event. It is a spiritual one. The bonds that hold society together will fray and snap. Brother will turn against brother. Families will be torn apart by strife, and honor will be forgotten in a desperate struggle for survival across Midgard, the realm of humanity. The natural order will begin to invert. The great wolves, Sköll and Hati, who have chased the sun and moon across the sky since the dawn of time, will finally catch their prey. The world will be plunged into an age of wind and an age of wolves before the final chapter begins. For the gods in Asgard, this prophecy is not a distant myth. It is a constant, looming reality. Every decision they make, every alliance they forge, and every foe they bind is done with the knowledge of how it will all end. They cannot prevent their doom, for fate is a force stronger than any god. They can only prepare, gathering their strength and their champions. For the day the horns sound, the chains break, and the final war begins. The prophecy is a countdown, and every moment brings the 9 worlds one step closer to Ragnarök. The grand drama of the Norse gods does not unfold upon a single stage, but across a vast and interconnected cosmos, held together by the greatest wonder of all, Yggdrasil, the world tree. This immense ash tree is the axis of existence, its roots delving into the unknown past and its branches reaching into the highest heavens. Within its boughs and among its roots lie the 9 worlds, distinct realms of gods, mortals, and ancient beings, each a crucial piece in the cosmic puzzle. At the very top sits Asgard, the fortress of the Aesir gods. Here, golden halls like Valhalla stand as a testament to divine order and martial strength, a shining bastion against the chaos that lurks beyond its walls. Below it, connected by the shimmering Bifrost Bridge, is Midgard, the world of humanity. This is the middle ground, a realm of mortals, constantly influenced by the actions of the gods above, and the forces from other worlds. Surrounding Midgard is the wild, untamed expanse of Jotunheim, the land of the giants. It is a place of raw, primordial power, of snow-capped mountains and dark forests, where the ancient enemies of the gods plot and dwell. Not all divine beings reside in Asgard. In Vanaheim live the Vanir, an older branch of gods associated with fertility, wisdom, and the natural world. Nearby is Alfheim, the luminous home of the light elves, beings of grace and beauty. In the deep places of the earth is Svartalfheim, the domain of the dwarves, master craftsmen who forge the legendary weapons and treasures of the gods in their subterranean halls. The roots of Yggdrasil dig deep into even older and more elemental realms. Niflheim is a world of primordial ice, fog, and mist, a place of cold beginnings. In stark opposition is Muspelheim, a searing, incandescent world of fire, ruled by the giant Surtur and his fiery kin. Finally, there is Helheim, the realm of the departed who did not fall in battle. It is a somber, quiet place ruled by its namesake, a destination for the vast majority of souls. These 9 worlds are not isolated. They are in constant flux, their fates intertwined by the branches and roots of Yggdrasil. An eagle sits in its highest branches, a serpent gnaws at its roots, and a squirrel scurries up and down the trunk, carrying messages and insults. This delicate cosmic balance is what the gods strive to protect. But the prophecy of Ragnarök foretells a time when this balance will shatter, when the Bifrost Bridge will break, and the inhabitants of these disparate worlds will collide in a final, universe-altering conflict. At the center of the Norse pantheon stands a figure of immense complexity, Odin. He is the All-Father, the god of war and poetry, the ruler of Asgard. Yet, his defining characteristic is not his power, but his relentless, often painful, pursuit of knowledge. Odin understands that the coming war of Ragnarök will be fought not only with swords and shields, but with wisdom and foresight. To this end, he is willing to pay any price, to endure any trial, to uncover the secrets of the cosmos and the threads of fate. His first great sacrifice took him to the roots of Yggdrasil, to the well of Mimir, whose waters held all the knowledge of the world. Mimir, the ancient guardian of the well, would not allow anyone to drink freely. The price for a single draught of cosmic understanding was a part of oneself. Without hesitation, Odin offered his own eye, surrendering his physical sight in one dimension to gain a far deeper vision into the workings of destiny. From that day on, the one-eyed god saw the world not just as it was, but as it had been and would be, burdened by the clarity of the coming doom. But even this profound insight was not enough. Odin sought mastery over the runes, the ancient symbols that were not mere letters, but conduits of fundamental cosmic power. To learn their secrets, he had to undergo an even greater ordeal. In a profound act of offering himself to himself, he pierced his own side with his spear, Gungnir, and hung from a branch of the world tree. For 9 days and 9 nights, he remained there, without food or water, suspended between the worlds in a state of near passage. At the culmination of his trial, as his consciousness faded, the secrets of the runes were revealed to him. He seized them, returning from the brink with a power that could shape reality itself. Yet, Odin's quest for wisdom brings with it a tragic irony. The more he learns, the more certain he becomes of the prophecy's fulfillment. His knowledge does not provide him with an escape route, but rather a detailed map of his own destruction. He sees how the great wolf Fenrir will be his end, how the forces of chaos will gather, and how his shining city of Asgard will fall. Every piece of wisdom he gains becomes another heavy stone in the foundation of his tragic fate. He is the wisest of the gods, yet his wisdom offers no comfort, only the terrible certainty of the end. Within the ordered halls of Asgard, there is one figure who walks the line between god and giant, creator and destroyer, ally and adversary: Loki. A giant by birth, he was welcomed into Asgard by Odin himself, becoming the All-Father's blood brother. With his sharp mind, silver tongue, and mastery of deception, Loki is an agent of change in a world that values stability. For a time, his nature manifests as mischievous, albeit dangerous, pranks. He is the great problem solver, often because he is the one who created the problem in the first place. He is the source of the gods' greatest treasures: Thor's hammer, Odin's spear, Sif's golden hair, all acquired through schemes born of his cunning. But beneath the charm and wit lies a core of bitterness and a capacity for profound malice. He is the ultimate outsider, never truly one of the Aesir, and his otherness festers into resentment. The turning point, the act that transforms him from a trickster into an unforgivable foe, is his involvement in the passing of Balder. Balder the Beautiful was the most beloved of all the gods, the son of Odin and Frigg, and a symbol of light and purity. His mother had extracted an oath from all things in creation not to harm him, making him seemingly invulnerable. All things, that is, except the humble mistletoe, which she had deemed too insignificant to ask. Loki, driven by envy, discovered this one weakness. He fashioned a dart from the plant and tricked the blind god Hoder into throwing it at Balder during a celebration. The dart struck true, and the shining god fell, his spirit departing for Helheim. The light of Asgard was extinguished, and the grief of the gods was immeasurable. When they discovered Loki's treachery, their sorrow curdled into a cold, absolute fury. This was no mere prank. It was an act of pure spite that set the gears of Ragnarök into motion. They pursued him relentlessly, finally capturing him and subjecting him to a terrible punishment. He was bound deep within a cave, where he would remain until the end of days. But in binding him, the gods did not remove the threat. They crystallized it. Loki's resentment was forged into an unbreakable resolve for vengeance. His capture did not prevent the prophecy. It ensured his role in it. Now, he is no longer just the architect of chaos, but its imprisoned king, waiting for the day his bonds will snap, so he can lead the armies of the underworld and the giants against those he once called brothers. Loki's legacy of chaos was not confined to his own actions. It was made manifest in his 3 extraordinary children, born of his union with the giantess Angerboda. These were not ordinary offspring. They were living embodiments of the primal forces destined to unravel the ordered cosmos of the gods: a serpent vast enough to encircle the world, a queen for the realm of the departed, and a wolf of unimaginable power. The gods of Asgard, guided by Odin's prophetic wisdom, quickly recognized the immense danger these 3 represented. Their response was swift and decisive, an attempt to control fate by containing its most potent agents. The first child, Jörmungandr, was a serpent of terrifying size. Odin cast the young serpent into the great ocean that surrounds Midgard, the world of humanity. But in the boundless deep, the serpent did not perish. It thrived. Jörmungandr grew to such a colossal size that he could encircle the entire world, grasping his own tail in his mouth. He became the Midgard serpent, a constant, brooding presence in the depths, his coils representing the untamable and cyclical power of the ocean itself. The second child was a daughter named Hel. Odin cast her down into the misty, cold realm of Niflheim and gave her authority over all who departed from old age or illness. Her very appearance reflected her domain. One half of her body was that of a beautiful, living woman, while the other half was that of a decaying form, a stark symbol of the line between existence and finality. In her somber kingdom, she would quietly assemble a vast army of the departed, waiting for the day she would be called upon. The third child, the wolf Fenrir, was the one the gods feared most. Prophecy foretold that he would one day bring about the downfall of Odin himself. They brought the pup to Asgard, hoping to raise and control him, but he grew at an alarming rate, his strength becoming more formidable each day. Realizing their folly, they resolved to bind him. Twice they chained him with massive iron fetters, and twice he shattered them with ease. For their final attempt, they commissioned the dwarves to forge a magical ribbon, Gleipnir. It was as thin as silk, but made from impossible things, like the sound of a cat's footfall and the breath of a fish. To trick the wary wolf into being bound, the god Tyr bravely placed his hand in Fenrir's mouth as a pledge of good faith. When Fenrir felt the unbreakable ribbon tighten and realized he had been deceived, his jaws snapped shut, severing Tyr's hand. The gods had succeeded in restraining the wolf, but at a great cost. By binding these three powerful beings, the gods believed they were averting disaster. In truth, they were merely setting the stage for it. Their actions planted seeds of vengeance that would lie dormant for ages, waiting for the first tremors of Ragnarök to finally break free. Among the most feared of Loki's children was a wolf named Fenrir. In the early days, he was raised in Asgard among the Aesir, a powerful but seemingly manageable creature. But the gods watched with growing alarm as the pup grew at a terrifying rate, his strength expanding with every passing day. Prophecies had spoken of a great wolf that would play a devastating role in the final days, and the gods saw their doom growing in their very midst. Their unease turned to outright fear, and they resolved that the wolf must be contained. Their first attempt was a mighty chain they called Leidingr. Presenting it as a game, a test of his legendary strength, they challenged Fenrir to break it. The wolf, confident and proud, allowed them to bind him, and, with a single, contemptuous flex of his muscles, shattered the chain to pieces. Unsettled, the gods commissioned a second chain, Dromi, twice as strong as the first. Again, they presented it as a challenge. Again, Fenrir consented, and again, he snapped the fetter with even less effort, cementing his reputation and the gods' terror. Realizing that no earthly material could hold him, Odin sent a messenger to the dwarves, the master smiths of the 9 realms. They were tasked with creating an unbreakable bond. The dwarves forged Gleipnir, a fetter that appeared as a thin, silken ribbon, but was crafted from 6 impossible things: the sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. With this magical ribbon, the gods approached Fenrir a third time on a remote island. They invited him to test his strength against this seemingly fragile band. But the wolf was no fool. He sensed deception. He agreed to be bound by Gleipnir only on one condition: that one of the gods place their hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith, a guarantee that this was not a trick. A heavy silence fell upon the gods. None would volunteer, for they all knew the truth. Finally, Tyr, the god of law and heroic glory, stepped forward. With solemn dignity, he placed his right hand between the wolf's powerful jaws. The other gods quickly wound the silken ribbon around Fenrir. The wolf strained, heaved, and fought against the bond, but the more he struggled, the tighter Gleipnir became. When he realized he was trapped, his howl of fury echoed through the realms. In that moment, the pledge was broken, and the wolf claimed his price. The cost of containing one aspect of the coming doom was the hand of a noble god and an act of betrayal that would never be forgotten. Bound and enraged, Fenrir would now wait, his hatred simmering, for the day of vengeance when all bonds would break. In the gleaming halls of Asgard, there was one being who represented all that was good and bright in the cosmos: Baldur, the son of Odin and Frigg. He was the god of light, joy, purity, and innocence. His presence was a balm, his smile could banish any shadow, and he was beloved by every living thing. Asgard, under his gentle influence, was a realm of peace and celebration. But a shadow began to creep into this idyllic world. Baldur was plagued by disturbing dreams, dark premonitions that foretold his own end. A palpable anxiety settled over the home of the gods. Desperate to protect her son, Frigg, the queen of the Aesir, embarked on an unprecedented journey. She traveled through all the 9 realms, from the highest peaks to the deepest caverns, and extracted a solemn oath from everything in creation. Fire and water, iron and all other metals, stones, earths, trees, sicknesses, beasts, birds, and creeping things, all swore never to harm the beautiful Baldur. With this seemingly absolute protection in place, the fears of the gods subsided. They celebrated Baldur's invincibility by creating a new pastime. They would gather and hurl all manner of objects at him, axes, stones, swords, and watch with delight as everything veered away or bounced off him without leaving a scratch. Baldur stood in the center, smiling and serene, the untouchable heart of Asgard's joy. But one figure did not share in the celebration. Loki, the trickster, watched the games with a heart full of envy and malice. The universal love for Baldur grated on his chaotic nature. Disguising himself as an old woman, he approached Frigg and, through cunning conversation, coaxed from her a fatal secret. In her grand quest, she had overlooked one small, insignificant plant, the mistletoe. It seemed too young and harmless to pose any threat, so she had not bothered to ask it for an oath. This was the opening Loki needed. He found a sprig of mistletoe and fashioned it into a sharp dart. He then went to the circle of gods, where Hödur, Baldur's blind twin brother, stood sadly at the edge, unable to participate and honor his sibling. With feigned kindness, Loki offered to help. "Let me guide your hand," he whispered, "so you too can show your respect for Baldur." Hödur, trusting and unaware, agreed. Loki placed the mistletoe dart in his hand and directed his aim. The small projectile flew true, striking Baldur. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the shining god fell, his light extinguished forever. The laughter in Asgard died, replaced by a gasp of collective horror and a grief so profound it could not be voiced. The first true casualty of the coming end was not a warrior in battle, but the very soul of innocence, brought down by a brother's hand and a trickster's spite. The profound grief that had paralyzed Asgard soon hardened into a cold, diamond-hard resolve. The death of Baldur was not just a tragedy, it was a transgression that shattered the fundamental order of their world. The age of games and laughter was over, replaced by an era of grim retribution. The target of their collective fury was Loki, the architect of their sorrow. The trickster, knowing the god's wrath would be absolute, fled. He transformed himself into a salmon and hid in the rushing waters of a remote mountain stream, hoping to evade his pursuers. But his cunning was no match for the wisdom of Odin, who, from his high throne, could see all that transpired in the 9 realms. The gods wove a great net, the first of its kind, and methodically swept the river. After a chase, Thor finally caught the slippery salmon in his iron grip. Loki's flight was over. His judgment was at hand. Before Loki's final sentencing, another act of vengeance unfolded. A new god, Vali, was born to Odin and the giantess Rindr. His conception had a single, terrible purpose: to avenge Baldur. Prophecy dictated that he would not wash his hands nor comb his hair until he had delivered justice. In a display of divine purpose, Vali grew to full manhood in a single day, armed himself, and traveled to Asgard. There, he fulfilled his destiny, and Baldur's unwitting killer, his own brother, Höder, met his end. This swift, harsh justice signaled a new, unforgiving chapter for the gods. Loki was then dragged to a dark, desolate cavern. The gods, in their fury, brought forth his two sons. A terrible fate was enacted upon them, and the result was used to fashion Loki's bonds. He was bound tightly to 3 massive, sharp-edged stones, but the punishment was not complete. The giantess Skadi, who bore her own grudge against Loki, procured a venomous serpent and fastened it to the rock face above him. There it would hang, its fangs dripping poison directly onto the bound trickster's face. In this grim tableau, one figure of loyalty remained. Sigyn, Loki's devoted wife, refused to abandon him. She sat by his side, holding a bowl to catch the searing venom. Her vigil was constant, a small act of mercy in a world that had forgotten it. But whenever the bowl became full and she turned to empty it, the poison would fall upon Loki. His violent convulsions of pain were said to be the source of earthquakes, a constant, subterranean reminder of the broken trust and simmering hatred, deep within the world, waiting for the day of final release. Odin, the All-Father, was defined by his insatiable thirst for knowledge. He sacrificed an eye for wisdom and sought counsel from all corners of the cosmos. To understand the shadows gathering on the horizon, he knew he must consult a source beyond the living. He traveled to the edge of the underworld and used his powerful magic to awaken a Völva, a long-slumbering seeress, to compel her to speak of what was to come. What she revealed was not a series of vague warnings, but a detailed and terrifying chronology of the end. Her prophecy, known as the Völuspá, became the definitive account of Ragnarök. The seeress spoke of the signs that would precede the final conflict. An age of wind and an age of wolves would come. Oaths would be broken, morality would crumble, and the world of mortals would descend into bitter conflict. She foretold the crowing of 3 roosters, the golden Gullinkambi to awaken the heroes in Asgard, a crimson rooster in the land of the giants, and a third, dark one, in the halls of the underworld. These were the alarms that would sound across the realms, signaling that time had run out. She then described the cataclysmic events that would herald the final battle. The great wolf Fenrir would finally shatter his magical bonds. The world serpent, Jörmungandr, would rise from the depths of the ocean in a rage, his massive body thrashing and unleashing great floods while poisoning the air and sea with his venom. The sky would split open, and from the fiery realm of Muspelheim, the fire giant Surtur would advance, leading his kin with a sword brighter than the sun. From the north, a ship made from the uncut fingernails of the departed would sail, steered by a giant and carrying the armies of frost giants, while a freed Loki would lead the legions of the underworld. At this, the watchman, god Heimdallr, would sound the Gjallarhorn, its blast echoing through the 9 realms, a final call to arms for the gods. Odin would lead the Aesir and his army of chosen champions from Valhalla onto the vast plain of Vigridr for the last stand. The seeress named the fated duels. Odin would fight the wolf Fenrir. Thor would face his ancient adversary, the serpent Jörmungandr. The god Freyr would battle the fire giant Surtur. But the seeress's vision extended beyond the smoke and ruin. After the world was consumed by fire and sank into the sea, she saw a new earth, green and fertile, rising from the waves. A new generation of gods, including the sons of Odin and Thor, would inhabit it. And most poignantly, the gentle Baldur would return from the underworld, ushering in an age of peace. The prophecy was a cycle of destruction and rebirth, a promise that even from total annihilation, a new and better world could emerge. The Völva's prophecy began not with the clash of swords or the roar of monsters, but with a profound and dreadful silence. Before the final war, the world itself had to be broken. This prelude to the end was the Fimbulwinter, the mighty winter. It was a season of impossible length and severity, a harbinger of the coming cosmic imbalance. It was not a single winter, but 3 consecutive winters with no intervening summers to offer relief. The sun and moon, ancient celestial bodies, grew weak and pale, their warmth failing to reach the earth. An unrelenting frost gripped the 9 realms. Snow, driven by merciless winds, fell from all directions, burying the landscape and erasing all signs of life. For the inhabitants of Midgard, the world of mortals, it was an age of utter desperation. The endless cold caused catastrophic crop failures. Livestock perished in the fields. The very sources of sustenance vanished, and a great famine spread across the lands. The natural order had collapsed, and humanity was left to contend with a world that had become hostile to its existence. This physical decay was mirrored by a complete societal collapse. In the face of starvation and hopelessness, the laws, customs, and bonds of kinship that held civilization together dissolved. The seeress's grim prediction came to pass. Brothers will fight and fell each other. Trust evaporated, replaced by suspicion and brutal self-interest. It was a world stripped of compassion, where survival became the only imperative. This 3-year period of strife and cold served as a great purge, scouring the world of its warmth, its light, and its humanity. It was a bleak and necessary preparation for the final act of destruction and renewal. At the end of the 3rd relentless winter, the world was a shadow of its former self, exhausted and primed for the end. The final signs appeared in the heavens. The wolves, Sköll and Hati, who had chased the sun and moon across the sky since the dawn of time, finally caught their prey. The celestial lights were extinguished, plunging the realms into a profound and terrifying blackness. The stars winked out. In this absolute void, the earth itself began to tremble with unprecedented violence. Mountains crumbled, and the ancient trees were uprooted. And in this great shaking, every chain, every fetter, every bond was finally broken. From their prisons of rock and magic, Fenrir and Loki were free. The stage was set. The long, cold silence was about to be shattered by the piercing cry of Heimdallr's horn. In the Norse understanding of the cosmos, order was maintained not by walls or laws, but by oaths, promises, and bonds. These were the sacred threads that held the chaotic forces of the universe at bay. Yet, prophecy foretold a time when these threads would fray and snap, one by one, signaling the dawn of the end. The first sign would be the failure of the most ingenious bond ever crafted, Gleipnir. Forged by dwarves from impossible things, the sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain. It was a ribbon, smooth and thin as silk, yet stronger than any iron chain. It was this magical fetter that held the monstrous wolf Fenrir, son of Loki, captive on a remote island. For ages, the wolf strained against it, his rage growing with each passing year. Then, the moment arrives. With a cosmic shudder that resonates through all 9 worlds, Fenrir summons a final, cataclysmic strength. Gleipnir, the unbreakable bond, disintegrates. The wolf is free, his howl a promise of vengeance against Odin and the gods who tricked him into his captivity. The earth itself groans in response, as mountains crumble and the very ground splits open. This cataclysmic earthquake serves a dual purpose. Far away, deep within a hidden cave, another prisoner feels the tremor and finds his own restraints loosened. This is Loki, the architect of so much divine sorrow, bound by the gods as punishment for his transgressions. For centuries he has endured his sentence, but Fenrir's escape shatters the ancient magic holding him. The bonds fall away, and Loki rises, no longer a captive, but a commander. His heart, once filled with mischief, now burns with a cold, focused desire for retribution. He is free to rally the enemies of Asgard, to steer the course of the coming war from the front lines. A third great boundary begins to dissolve in the chaos. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, another of Loki's children, stirs from its slumber in the depths of the world's ocean. So immense that its body encircles the entire realm of mortals, its violent thrashing creates tidal waves of unprecedented scale. The seas rise, flooding the lands and erasing the coastlines that have defined the world for millennia. The serpent's poison seeps into the water, tainting the very air. The natural order is inverted. The oceans no longer contain themselves, but instead surge inward to consume the land. The fundamental compacts of the cosmos are broken. The wolf, the trickster, and the world serpent are unleashed. Their freedom is not a quiet escape, but a thunderous declaration that the age of the gods is over, and a new, terrible age is about to begin. At the celestial crossroads, where the world of mortals meets the realm of the gods, stands Himinbjörg, the sky fortress. Here dwells Heimdall, the vigilant watchman of the Aesir. His senses are beyond comprehension. He requires less sleep than a bird, can see for hundreds of leagues by day or night, and his hearing is so precise he can perceive the sound of grass growing on the earth and wool on the backs of sheep. For untold ages, he has guarded the Bifrost, the shimmering rainbow bridge that is the only entrance to Asgard. His gaze has been fixed on the horizon, waiting for the signs foretold in ancient prophecy. Now, he sees them. He sees the impossible. A great wolf running free, the seas rising in a world-drowning flood, and the first movements of giants and darker things in the mists. The time for watching is over. The moment for which he was born has arrived. At his side, Heimdall keeps his most sacred possession, the Gjallarhorn. The name means the resounding horn, or yelling horn, and it is no mere instrument. It is a conduit of cosmic alarm, a device whose purpose is singular and terrible. Prophecy states that when sounded, its note will not be confined to Asgard. It will travel through the branches and roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil, reaching every corner of the 9 worlds. It is the sound that ends all peace. Heimdall raises the great horn to his lips. He draws a breath that seems to pull in all the quiet air of the fading age and lets out a single, piercing blast. The sound is unlike any other. It is a note of pure, urgent warning that shakes the golden halls of Asgard to their foundations. It echoes in the deep caverns of the dwarves, alerts the elves in their luminous forests, and strikes fear into the hearts of mortals. In Valhalla, the Hall of the Chosen, the great host of Einherjar hear the call. These are the spirits of the greatest human champions, who have feasted and trained for centuries, awaiting this very signal. They stop their feasting, take up their swords and shields, and assemble for their final duty. Odin, the All-Father, hears it, and rides to the well of Mimir to seek final counsel. Thor grips the handle of his hammer, Mjolnir, the feel of it a familiar comfort in a world suddenly thrown into uncertainty. The gods of Asgard, from the mightiest to the most minor, hear the call. The Gjallarhorn has sounded. The enemies of the gods are on the move, and the defenders of Asgard must now ride out to meet them. There is no more time for preparation, no more room for doubt. The final war has been declared. As the Gjallarhorn's call rallies the forces of order, a different kind of muster takes place in the shadowed, chaotic waters of the newly flooded world. From the realm of the giants, an ancient and terrible vessel is finally set afloat. This is Naglfar, the Nail Ship. Its legend is one of the most macabre in Norse lore, a chilling reminder of the connection between the living and the departed. The ship, it was said, was constructed entirely from the untrimmed fingernails and toenails of the deceased. This belief instilled a deep cultural importance in funerary rites. To leave the nails of a loved one untrimmed was to contribute material to the enemy's greatest weapon. Each forgotten detail, each act of neglect, added another plank to the hull of this dreadful ship. For centuries, it lay grounded, a prophecy waiting for its moment. That moment comes with the thrashing of the Midgard serpent. The world-drowning flood that follows the serpent's rage is the key that unlocks Naglfar. The rising waters lift its massive, grotesque hull from the earth of Jotunheimr, the land of giants, and set it upon the waves. It is a vessel born of chaos, now captained by it. At its helm stands a giant named Hrym, a powerful figure from the frost giant lineage. In some accounts, however, the newly freed Loki himself takes the rudder, his cunning mind guiding the grim armada. Under his command, the ship is not merely a transport, but a symbol of his ultimate betrayal, leading the legions of the underworld against the family he once called his own. The crew is a silent, formidable host. They are the inhabitants of Hell, the realm of the dishonorable departed, a vast population of shades now given purpose and direction. Joined by the frost giants of Jotunheimr, they form an army of cold and shadow. The journey of Naglfar is an inexorable advance across the storm-tossed seas. It glides through the tempest, its pale structure an eerie sight against the dark, churning water. It is a silent testament to the power of the underworld, a physical manifestation of the forgotten and the forsaken, now returned to claim their due. The sight of its approach on the horizon is more than a threat. It is a psychological blow to the defenders of the world. It signifies that the conflict is not just between gods and giants, but between the living and the accumulated neglect of generations. As Naglfar sails towards the fated battlefield of Vigridr, it brings with it the chill of the grave, a force as inevitable and as final as time itself. The assault on the cosmos comes not only from the forces of frost, chaos, and shadow, but also from a realm of pure, primordial energy. From the south comes an army born of fire itself. This is the land of Muspelheim, a kingdom of eternal flame that predates the gods and the world. It is a place of searing heat, flowing magma, and light so intense it is blinding. Since the dawn of time, this fiery realm has been guarded by a being of immense power and antiquity, the fire giant, Surtur. His name, meaning the Black One, is a paradox, for he is a being of light and heat. Surtur is not a recent enemy of the gods. He is a fundamental force of the universe, an entity whose existence is intertwined with creation and its ultimate conclusion. For ages, he has stood at the border of his realm, wielding a sword that blazes brighter than the sun. It is a weapon not of forged metal, but of concentrated cosmic fire. His destiny, long foretold, is to be the one who brings the cleansing flames to the 9 worlds and to face the god Freyr in a final, fateful duel. When the bonds break and the Gjallarhorn sounds, Surtur knows his time has come. He rallies his legions, the sons of Muspelheim. These are not giants of flesh and bone, but beings of living flame and molten rock. They are an army that does not march, but flows like a river of lava, an unstoppable tide of incandescence. Their advance is the final cataclysm. They ride forth from the south and make for the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge to Asgard. But the bridge, made of fire, air, and water, cannot withstand the concentrated heat of Muspelheim. As Surtur and his army set foot upon it, the magnificent structure cracks, groans, and shatters into a million shimmering pieces. The gods in Asgard are now cut off, their shining path to the other realms destroyed. The fall of the Bifrost is a symbolic and strategic disaster, isolating the defenders for the final confrontation. The path of the sons of Muspelheim is one of utter consumption. Where they tread, the world is unmade by fire. Forests turn to ash in an instant, rivers and lakes boil away into steam, and the very earth is scorched black. This is not the chaotic flood of Jormungandr, but a systematic purification by flame. The world is now trapped between two elemental extremes, the rising, venomous waters of the serpent and the all-consuming inferno of Surtur. The sky darkens with smoke, lit only by the terrible glow from the south. The forces of destruction are converging, and there is only one place left where they can meet. All the threads of prophecy, all the armies of gods and giants, all the forces of fire and ice now lead to one vast and final stage, a plain stretching 100 leagues in every direction, a field whose very name, Vigridr, means battleground. It is here that the fate of the Norse cosmos will be decided. The sight is one of awe and terror. On one side assembles the host of Asgard. Odin, the All-Father, sits astride his 8-legged steed, Sleipnir, his golden helmet gleaming, and his spear, Gungnir, held ready. Beside him is his son, Thor, god of thunder, his expression grim, his knuckles white around the handle of his hammer, Mjolnir. They are joined by the noble Tyr, the valiant Freyr, the ever-watchful Heimdall, and the full pantheon of the Aesir and Vanir gods. Behind them stand the ranks of the Einherjar, the greatest champions of mankind, a shining army prepared for the glorious end they have long awaited. Facing them is a coalition of nightmares. The great wolf Fenrir stands unbound, his massive jaws gaping so wide that one touches the earth and the other scrapes the sky, fire flashing from his eyes and nostrils. The Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, has risen from the sea onto the plain, its colossal coils shifting the very landscape as it spews clouds of venom into the air. Loki, the agent of chaos, arrives at the helm of Naglfar, leading the legions from Hel and the frost giants, and from the south, Surtur and the sons of Muspelheim advance, turning the plain into a shimmering sea of heat, the fire giant's flaming sword casting a dreadful light over all. The battle begins not with a chaotic melee, but with a series of fated encounters. This is not a war of chance, but the final, grim performance of a play written at the beginning of time. Odin charges directly towards his nemesis, Fenrir. Thor does not hesitate, striding forward to meet the Midgard serpent, the adversary he has faced before and is destined to face one last time. Freyr, who long ago traded his invincible sword for the love of a giantess, now confronts the immense, fiery Surtur, armed only with an antler. The god Tyr, who sacrificed his hand to bind Fenrir, now faces Garmr, the monstrous hound of Hel's Gate. And Heimdall, the guardian of the Bifrost, meets his arch-rival and opposite, the treacherous Loki. The clash is on a cosmic scale. The ground shakes with the footfalls of giants and the charge of gods. The sky is split by lightning from Thor's hammer and the flames from Surtur's sword. The air itself becomes a weapon, poisoned by the serpent's breath. This is the twilight of the gods, a symphony of valor and destruction, where every participant moves towards their prophesied end, fighting not for victory, but for the honor of meeting their destiny head-on. The air on the plain of Vigrid grows thick with destiny. The Gjallarhorn's echo still hangs in the sulphurous sky, a final summons to a war foretold in whispers for millennia. At the head of the Einherjar, the resurrected champions of Valhalla, rides Odin. The All-Father, the god of wisdom, poetry, and war, is a figure of grim majesty. His single eye, which has seen the past and the future, now fixes upon the greatest of his fears made manifest. From the north, a shadow unbound, comes Fenrir. The wolf is no mere beast. It is a cosmic force of annihilation, its jaws agape, one touching the earth, the other scraping the heavens. For ages, Odin has known this moment would come. He has traveled the 9 realms, sacrificed his eye for a drink from the well of wisdom, and gathered the greatest warriors, all in preparation for this confrontation. He knows the prophecy. He knows his fate. Yet, he does not waver. With his golden helmet on and his spear Gungnir held steady, he spurs his 8-legged steed, Sleipnir, into a charge. This is not a desperate act, but the fulfillment of a divine duty. The leader of the gods must face the greatest threat to their existence. The clash is immediate and cataclysmic. It is not a battle of flesh and steel, but of order against chaos, of creation against the void. The Einherjar and the giants pause in their own struggles, their attention drawn to the duel at the heart of the world's end. Sleipnir, the finest of all horses, gallops across the battlefield, carrying the king of Asgard toward the monstrous wolf. For a breathtaking moment, it seems as if prophecy might be defied, that the wisdom and power of Odin could turn the tide. But the sagas are clear. The forces at play are older and more fundamental than even the gods themselves. In a final, terrible rush, the great wolf lunges forward. The All-Father, the architect of Asgard's golden age, the seeker of all knowledge, is consumed. The spear Gungnir falls to the ground. Sleipnir cries out in a sound of pure anguish. A profound shock ripples through the divine host. Their king, their leader, the very symbol of their power, has fallen. The first great blow of Ragnarök has been struck, and its impact threatens to shatter the morale of all who stand for the old world. But there is no time for mourning, only for vengeance, as Odin's son Vidar now steps forward, his heart set on avenging his father. As Odin falls, the very foundations of the world groan in protest. The sea heaves and boils, whipped into a fury not by wind, but by the colossal form rising from its abyssal depths. Jörmungandr, the world serpent, the middle child of Loki, has released its own tail. For ages, it has encircled Midgard, the realm of humanity, holding the oceans in place. Now, it rises, its immense body churning the waves into continent-sized tsunamis. The serpent's purpose is singular, to poison the sky. With every breath, it spews a cloud of venom that chokes the air and turns the rain to acid. The world is drowning and being corrupted simultaneously. But this challenge does not go unanswered. From the sky, descending in a chariot pulled by his 2 goats, Tangrisnir and Tangunjostur, comes Thor. The god of thunder, Asgard's mightiest champion, is a figure of pure, righteous fury. His red beard bristles, and his eyes burn with the light of a brewing storm. This is the confrontation he has been anticipating for his entire existence. He and the serpent are ancient adversaries, their fates intertwined since the serpent was first cast into the sea. Leaping from his chariot, Thor lands on the ravaged shore, his iron gloves tightening around the handle of his hammer, Mjolnir. He strides into the venomous surf without hesitation, his challenge a roar that competes with the thunder overhead. The battle that follows is one of elemental fury. Thor, the embodiment of the storm, against Jörmungandr, the incarnation of the venomous, chaotic sea. Lightning cracks from Mjolnir, illuminating the serpent's terrifying form. The serpent strikes back, its fangs dripping with a poison that can dissolve stone. The earth trembles with every blow from the hammer. The sky darkens with every exhalation of venom. Finally, with a monumental effort that calls upon all his divine strength, Thor delivers the decisive blow. Mjolnir crashes into the serpent's head, a strike so powerful it splinters the bones of the colossal creature. The great beast writhes in its final moments, and then collapses, its lifeless form creating a new, mountainous island in the churning sea. Thor stands victorious, the champion of Asgard, the protector of Midgard. But the victory is tragically brief. He is drenched in the serpent's black venom. He turns back toward the land, managing to take exactly 9 steps, a number of deep significance in Norse cosmology. Then, the protector's strength fails him. He falls to his knees, Asgard's greatest warrior succumbing to the poison of his greatest foe. The thunder ceases, leaving a terrifying quiet in its wake. Amidst the grand clashes of gods and monsters, a more personal, yet equally fated duel takes place. It is a confrontation born of ancient animosity, a final settling of accounts between two beings who represent the opposing poles of the Norse cosmos. On one side stands Heimdall, the white god, the ever-vigilant guardian of the Bifrost Bridge. He is the embodiment of order, duty, and unwavering watchfulness. His senses are so acute he can hear grass growing on the earth and wool growing on sheep. For eons, he has stood as the first line of defense for Asgard, his gaze fixed on the horizon, awaiting the very enemies that now swarm the field. On the other side is Loki, the agent of chaos, the trickster, the catalyst for change and destruction. Having led the forces of Hel and the frost giants to the battlefield, his work of undoing the world of the Aesir is nearly complete. He moves through the battle with a sinister grace, his presence sowing discord and confusion. Their paths inevitably cross on the blood-soaked plain of Vigrid. There are no grand pronouncements, no challenges shouted across the field. There is only a moment of recognition, a shared understanding that their long and bitter rivalry must end here. Their conflict is deeper than most. It was Heimdall who fought Loki to retrieve Freya's necklace, Brisingamen. It is Heimdall who represents the rigid structure that Loki has always sought to undermine. They are fire and ice, order and anarchy, the guardian and the infiltrator. Their duel is not one of brute strength like Thor's, nor is it one of cosmic significance like Odin's. It is a grim, determined fight between two equals who know each other's every move, every weakness. Heimdall wields his sword, Hofund, while Loki answers with his own deadly cunning and formidable skill in combat. They are perfectly matched, a reflection of the universe's need for balance, even in its final moments. The prophecy foretold this outcome with chilling accuracy. They are destined to be each other's downfall. As they fight, they inflict grievous wounds upon one another. Neither can gain a final advantage, as each countermove is met with an equal and opposite reaction. In the end, they fall together. Heimdall, the guardian, fulfills his final duty by stopping the great agent of chaos. Loki, the trickster, has his final laugh by taking Asgard's protector down with him. With their departure, 2 more of the great figures of the age are removed from the board, leaving the world increasingly defenseless as the final cataclysm approaches. With the fall of Odin, Thor, Loki, and Heimdall, the great pillars supporting the 9 realms have crumbled. The Battle of Vigrid has reached its horrifying crescendo, but the end is not a victory for either side. It is an absolute, all-consuming reset. From the south, from the fiery realm of Muspelheim, comes the final actor in this cosmic drama. Surtur, the leader of the fire giants, advances. He is a figure of immense power, older than the gods themselves. In his hand, he wields a sword that burns brighter than the sun, a blade of pure, cleansing flame. He and his legions sweep across the battlefield, and the remaining combatants, god, giant, and monster alike, are consumed by the inferno. The fire is indiscriminate. It does not distinguish between friend and foe. It is the end of the old order, the final purification. Asgard, the golden fortress of the gods, is set ablaze. Midgard, the realm of humanity, is scorched until the very mountains melt. The great rainbow bridge, Bifrost, which Heimdall guarded for so long, finally shatters under the weight of the giants and the heat of the flames, its connection between the realms severed forever. Even the world tree, Yggdrasil, the axis of the cosmos, shudders and groans, its leaves turning to ash. But the fire is only the first part of the end. As Surtur's flames engulf the land, the seas, no longer constrained by the world serpent, rise in a final, cataclysmic flood. The boiling waters surge over the burning continents, extinguishing the great fire and swallowing all that remains. The scorched earth is submerged beneath a vast, dark ocean. The very heavens begin to unravel. The wolves Sköll and Hati, who have chased the sun and moon across the sky since the beginning of time, finally catch their prey. The sun is devoured, and the moon is extinguished. The stars, once fixed points of light and guidance, flicker and fall from the sky like sparks, plunging the cosmos into an absolute and profound blackness. There is no sound, no wind, no life. There is only the dark, silent water covering a world that no longer exists. The age of gods and men is over. The prophecies have been fulfilled. The cycle has reached its end, a perfect, silent void where creation once thrived. All that has been is gone, waiting in the stillness for what is yet to come. Out of the silence and the darkness, a change begins. The vast, world-spanning waters that had claimed everything begin to recede. Slowly, gently, a new land emerges from the sea. It is not the old, battle-scarred world, but one that is fresh, green, and teeming with unspoken potential. The air is clean, free of the venom and smoke of the final war. A new sun, the daughter of the one devoured by the wolf, rises in the sky, casting a warm, golden light over the nascent landscape. Her radiance is even more beautiful than her mother's, a promise of a brighter age. This is not a world of ghosts, but of survivors. From the ruins of Asgard, a handful of the old gods return. Vidar, the avenger of Odin, and his brother Vali emerge, their purpose in the old world fulfilled. They are joined by Thor's sons, Modi and Magni, who arrive carrying their father's mighty hammer, Mjolnir. The hammer of thunder, once a weapon of war, is now a tool for building, a legacy of strength tempered with a new wisdom. In a moment of profound reconciliation, Balder, the beautiful god of light, and his blind brother, Hod, return from the realm of Hel. Their conflict, instigated by Loki's deceit, had been one of the first signs of the coming end. Their return together signifies a healing of the deepest wounds of the past, a new era free from the old grudges. As they walk the fields of the reborn Yggdrasil, the central plain of Asgard, they discover something remarkable in the tall green grass, the golden chess pieces that the Aesir used to play with in their prime. It is a poignant link to the world that was lost, a symbol that not all is forgotten, and that the new age is built upon the memory of the old. But the gods are not the only survivors. Hidden deep within the wood of Hodmimis Holt, sheltered from the fire and the flood, two humans have endured. Lif and Lifthrasir, whose names mean life and will to live. They emerge from their shelter, sustained by the morning dew, to become the progenitors of a new human race. This new world will not be one of epic battles and divine struggles. It will be a world of peace, growth, and quiet dignity, where gods and mortals can begin anew. Ragnarök was not just an end. It was a violent, necessary transformation. The cycle of destruction has given way to a cycle of creation, offering a timeless message of hope and the unyielding promise of rebirth.